I know why you're here. I know what kept you up last night, staring at the ceiling while they slept peacefully beside you. I know about that knot in your stomach that tightens every time you think about your future together. I know about the doubt that whispers in your ear during quiet moments, the one you try to silence but can't quite make disappear. That doubt isn't random. That doubt isn't your enemy. And that doubt is exactly why the universe made sure this video appeared on your screen right now, at this exact moment in your life. Because what I'm about to share with you is going to change everything you think you know about your relationship, about love, and about what that persistent voice inside you is really trying to tell you. But before we go any further, I need something from you. I need you to commit to staying with me until the very end of this video. Because the message you need to hear might come in the middle, or it might be in the final minutes, and if you leave early, you'll miss the exact insight that was meant for you. We're building something powerful in this community, and I have a challenge for all of us. Let's get 100 comments on this video from people who are brave enough to be honest about their relationship doubts. And here's what I need you to understand. The universe responds to action. So before this video ends, I want you to leave a comment. It doesn't have to reveal everything. You can simply write, "I'm listening," or "This spoke to me," or even just, "I needed this today." Because when you acknowledge your truth, even in that small way, you're opening a door for the universe to guide you forward. And please hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications, because the algorithm favors those who engage, who watch completely, who show up consistently. You'll be remembered first by the platform. You'll see our transformative content before anyone else. And we need to reach this goal together so we can continue creating these life-changing messages for people like you who are searching for answers in the dark. So promise me now you'll watch until the end. Your future self will thank you. Now, let's talk about that doubt. That uncomfortable, persistent, nagging feeling that something isn't quite right. Maybe it's been there for weeks, or maybe it's been growing quietly for years. Maybe it shows up when they say, "I love you," and you hear yourself say it back, but there's a hesitation in your heart that wasn't there before. Maybe it appears when you're making plans for next month, next year, the rest of your life, and instead of excitement, you feel a strange heaviness. Maybe it surfaces when you watch other couples and wonder why your relationship doesn't feel like that, or when you're alone and catch yourself fantasizing about a different life, a different person, a different version of yourself that doesn't exist in this relationship. And then comes the guilt. Oh, the guilt. Because you look at your partner and they're not a bad person. They haven't cheated on you or abused you or done anything that would justify leaving. In fact, on paper, everything looks fine, maybe even good. They're reliable, they're there. They care about you in their own way. Your friends think you're lucky. Your family likes them. You've built a life together, shared memories, inside jokes, routines that feel comfortable even if they don't feel exciting anymore. So you tell yourself you're being ungrateful. You tell yourself that all relationships lose their spark eventually. You tell yourself that doubt is normal and you just need to push through it. You tell yourself that the grass isn't greener on the other side. You tell yourself 1,000 things to make that doubt go away, but it doesn't. It just gets louder. Here's what I need you to understand, and this is crucial. That doubt is not your enemy. That doubt is actually the universe trying to communicate with you. But here's the tricky part. The doubt doesn't always mean what you think it means. Sometimes the doubt is telling you that the relationship is wrong for you and you need to leave. But sometimes the doubt is telling you something completely different. Sometimes it's telling you that you're wrong for the relationship in your current state and you need to change. Sometimes it's pointing to wounds inside you that have nothing to do with your partner and everything to do with patterns you've been carrying since childhood. And sometimes it's showing you that you're ready for a deeper level of intimacy and authenticity, but you're too afraid to be vulnerable enough to create it. So the first question you need to ask yourself isn't, should I stay or should I go? The first question is, what is this doubt really trying to tell me? And to answer that question, you need to get brutally honest with yourself, not about your partner, about yourself. Because here's what happens in most relationships. We spend so much time analyzing our partner's flaws, their shortcomings, the ways they disappoint us that we never turn the mirror around. We never ask ourselves the hard questions. Are you showing up fully in this relationship, or are you holding back? Are you communicating your true needs and desires, or are you expecting your partner to read your mind? Are you bringing your best self to the relationship, or are you bringing your fears, your insecurities, your unhealed trauma, and expecting them to fix it? Let me tell you something that might be uncomfortable to hear. If you're feeling doubt, there's a very good chance that your partner is feeling something similar. Maybe they don't call it doubt. Maybe they call it distance or disconnection or restlessness. But relationships are energetic ecosystems. What you feel, they feel, even if neither of you is talking about it. And this is where most relationships die. Not from one big explosive event, but from this quiet erosion that happens when both people are feeling doubt, but neither person is brave enough to bring it into the light and examine it together. The universe brought you to this video because it's time to stop avoiding the doubt and start listening to it. But listening doesn't mean making rash decisions. It doesn't mean running away the moment things feel uncomfortable. It means getting still enough and quiet enough to hear what the doubt is actually saying beneath all the noise of fear and confusion. So let's walk through this together. I'm going to help you decode what your doubt might be telling you, and then I'm going to give you practical tools to know what to do with that information. First possibility. The doubt is telling you that you've outgrown the relationship. This is one of the hardest truths to face because it means acknowledging that someone you care about, someone who might be a genuinely good person, is no longer aligned with who you're becoming. People grow and evolve at different rates and in different directions. Maybe when you got together, you were both in similar places in your lives. You had similar goals, similar values, similar visions for the future. But over time, you've changed. You've developed new interests, new perspectives, new dreams. And when you try to share these parts of yourself with your partner, you're met with disinterest or judgment or a blank stare that tells you they just don't get it. This kind of doubt feels like you're slowly suffocating, like you're making yourself smaller to fit into a relationship that doesn't have room for the person you're becoming. You find yourself censoring your thoughts, dimming your light, pretending to be someone you're not just to keep the peace. And the worst part is, you might not even realize you're doing it. It happens so gradually that you don't notice until one day you look in the mirror and barely recognize yourself. If this resonates with you, the universe is telling you that it's time to honor your growth. That doesn't necessarily mean ending the relationship immediately, but it does mean having an honest conversation with your partner about where you are and where you're going, and finding out if they're willing and able to grow in a compatible direction. Second possibility. The doubt is pointing to unmet needs that you haven't voiced. This is incredibly common, and it's one of the most fixable forms of doubt if you're willing to do the work. You see, most of us enter relationships with this fantasy that our partner should just know what we need, that if they really loved us, they'd intuitively understand how to make us happy. And when they don't meet needs we never explicitly expressed, we feel disappointed, resentful, unseen. We start telling ourselves stories about how they don't care enough, how we're not a priority, how we'd be better off with someone who gets us without having to be told. But here's the reality check. Your partner is not a mind reader. They're a human being with their own set of experiences, wounds, and blind spots. What feels obviously important to you might not even be on their radar. Maybe you need more quality time together, but you've never said that directly, so they assume you're fine with the current arrangement. Maybe you need more physical affection, but you've never expressed that, so they don't realize their lack of touch is making you feel unwanted. Maybe you need them to be more emotionally available, but you've never created a safe space for them to open up, so they keep everything surface level. If this is your situation, the doubt is the universe's way of saying, stop expecting them to be psychic and start using your voice. This requires vulnerability, which is scary, because when you voice your needs directly, there's a risk that your partner will say no or won't be capable of meeting them, and then you'll have to face the reality of the mismatch. But staying silent guarantees that your needs will never be met. At least by speaking up, you give the relationship a chance to evolve. You give your partner the opportunity to show up differently, and you give yourself the gift of knowing that you tried, that you were brave enough to ask for what you needed instead of suffering in silence. Third possibility. The doubt is a reflection of your own fear of intimacy. This one is subtle and it's the hardest to admit to yourself, because it's not about your partner being wrong for you. It's about you being terrified of being truly seen and known. Somewhere along the way, probably in childhood, you learned that being vulnerable means getting hurt. Maybe you watched your parents' relationship fall apart. Maybe you experienced abandonment or rejection at a formative age. Maybe you've been hurt in previous relationships and you've built walls to protect yourself from ever feeling that pain again. And so even though you're in a relationship, even though you go through all the motions of partnership, there's a part of you that's holding back. You're not letting them all the way in. You're keeping your deepest fears, your biggest dreams, your most authentic self locked away where they can't see it. And this creates a strange paradox. You feel lonely in the relationship because you're not truly connected. But the reason you're not connected is because you won't allow the connection. Your partner might be trying to get closer, but you keep them at arm's length without even realizing it. If this is you, the doubt you're feeling isn't about whether you should leave. It's about whether you're willing to finally let the walls down and risk being vulnerable. The universe is asking you to take a leap of faith, to trust that real love requires real openness, to understand that the safety you think you've created by protecting yourself is actually a prison that's keeping you from experiencing the depth of connection you're craving. This is terrifying work, and you might need the support of a therapist to help you navigate it. But on the other side of that fear is the kind of relationship that makes you feel alive, seen, cherished for who you really are. Fourth possibility. The doubt is revealing that your partner is actually emotionally unavailable or unwilling to meet you halfway. This is different from the second possibility I mentioned. In that scenario, your partner is capable of change but unaware of what you need. In this scenario, you've communicated clearly and repeatedly, but your partner either can't or won't show up differently. Maybe they're dealing with their own unhealed trauma and they're not ready to do the work. Maybe they're comfortable with surface-level connection and have no interest in going deeper. Maybe they're so consumed by their own needs and struggles that they don't have capacity for yours. This kind of doubt feels like banging your head against a wall. You keep having the same conversations, making the same requests, explaining the same needs, and nothing changes. They might apologize, they might promise to do better, but their behavior stays the same. And you're left feeling like you're asking for too much, like you're too needy, like you should just be grateful for what you're getting. But the truth is, you're not asking for too much. You're asking for basic emotional reciprocity, and they're not capable of providing it, at least not right now. If this is your situation, the universe is telling you something important. You cannot change another person. You cannot love them into healing. You cannot wait around hoping that one day they'll wake up and become the partner you need them to be. The only person you can change is yourself. So you have a choice to make. You can accept them exactly as they are and find peace with a relationship that will probably always feel somewhat lacking. Or you can honor yourself enough to walk away and create space for a partnership where you don't have to beg for emotional scraps. Fifth possibility. The doubt is showing you that you're staying out of fear rather than love. This is perhaps the most painful realization of all. You know, deep down, that the relationship isn't right. You know that you're not happy, that you haven't been happy for a long time. But you're terrified of leaving, you're terrified of being alone, you're terrified of starting over, you're terrified of hurting them, you're terrified of the logistical nightmare of separating your lives. You're terrified that you'll never find anyone else. You're terrified that you're making a mistake and you'll regret it. So you stay. You stay and you try to convince yourself that it's good enough, that it could be worse, that this is just what long-term relationships look like. But the universe is gently, persistently trying to show you that fear is not a good enough reason to stay in a relationship. Because when you stay out of fear, you're not just hurting yourself, you're also hurting your partner. You're keeping them in a relationship with someone who doesn't want to be there, someone who's settling, someone who's preventing them from finding a person who will choose them enthusiastically and wholeheartedly. It's not noble to stay out of guilt or obligation. It's actually a form of dishonesty, and the longer you stay in a relationship that your soul knows is wrong, the harder it becomes to leave, and the more resentment builds up on both sides. Now, after reading through all these possibilities, you might be feeling overwhelmed. You might be thinking, okay, but how do I actually know which one applies to me? How do I know if I should stay and work on things or if I should leave? And that's the million-dollar question, isn't it? Here's what I'm going to tell you, and this comes from my own experience and from watching countless people navigate this exact dilemma. The answer is already inside you. You already know what you need to do. The doubt isn't confusion. The doubt is clarity that you're afraid to acknowledge. But I understand that you want some kind of framework, some way to make sense of this. So let me give you a tool. I call it the future self-test. Close your eyes for a moment and imagine yourself 5 years from now. You're still in this relationship. Nothing has fundamentally changed. Your partner is still the person they are today. The dynamics are still the same. The issues that bother you now still bother you then. How do you feel? Be honest. Do you feel peaceful, grateful, content, or do you feel resigned, trapped, regretful? Now, imagine a different scenario. 5 years from now, you're no longer in this relationship. You went through the difficulty of leaving. You faced your fears, you dealt with the pain and the logistics and the uncertainty, and now you're on the other side. Maybe you're with someone new, or maybe you're happily single, but you're no longer carrying the weight of this doubt. How do you feel in that scenario? Relieved, free, sad, but at peace? Or do you feel regretful and like you made a terrible mistake? Neither answer is right or wrong, but your emotional response to these two scenarios will tell you a lot about what your soul really wants. If imagining yourself still in the relationship 5 years from now fills you with dread, that's your answer. If imagining yourself having left fills you with relief, that's your answer. But if both scenarios feel painful in different ways, that might mean the relationship is worth fighting for, worth having those hard conversations, worth doing the deep work to see if you can transform it into something that feels right. Here's another piece of wisdom that the universe wants you to hear. Not all doubts require immediate action. Sometimes doubt is just doubt. Sometimes it's your psyche processing something, working through something, integrating something. You don't have to make a life-altering decision today, but you do have to stop avoiding the doubt. You have to stop numbing it with distractions or rationalizing it away or pretending it doesn't exist. You have to sit with it. You have to journal about it. You have to talk about it, either with your partner or with a trusted friend or with a therapist. You have to give it space to teach you what it's trying to teach you. And let me be clear about something. If you decide to stay and work on the relationship, that's not the easy choice. That's actually the harder choice in many ways, because it requires you to show up differently every single day. It requires you to be more honest, more vulnerable, more willing to call out patterns and dynamics that aren't working. It requires both you and your partner to commit to growth, even when growth is uncomfortable. It requires you to stop keeping score and start approaching the relationship as a team, tackling problems together instead of adversaries fighting against each other. If you choose this path, here's what you need to do. First, you need to have what I call the State of the Union conversation. You need to sit down with your partner, without distractions, and you need to be honest about the doubt you've been feeling. Not in an accusatory way, not with a list of all their faults, but with vulnerable honesty about your own internal experience. I need to tell you something that's been weighing on me. I've been feeling doubt about our relationship, and I don't want to hide that from you anymore. I don't know exactly what it means yet, but I think we need to talk about where we are and where we're going. This conversation will probably be scary. Your partner might get defensive. They might get hurt. They might also feel relieved because they've been feeling something similar. But either way, you're bringing truth into the light, and that's always the first step toward transformation. From there, you can start identifying specific areas that need attention. Maybe you need to rebuild emotional intimacy. Maybe you need to work on communication patterns. Maybe you need to address unresolved conflicts or resentments. Maybe you need to bring back novelty and adventure. Maybe you need couples therapy to guide you through this process. But here's the non-negotiable part. Both people have to be willing to do the work. If you're the only one who's committed to changing the relationship, it's not going to change. You can't save a relationship by yourself. It takes two people showing up, being honest, being vulnerable, being willing to look at their own stuff and take responsibility for their part in the dynamics. If your partner is willing to join you in that commitment, there's hope. If they're not, then you have your answer about what you need to do next. Now let's talk about the other possibility. What if you realize that you need to leave? What if the doubt has been your soul screaming at you that this isn't your person, this isn't your path, this isn't the relationship that will help you become who you're meant to be? First of all, if that's where you've landed, I want you to know that it's okay. It doesn't make you a bad person. It doesn't mean you've failed. Sometimes love isn't enough. Sometimes two people can care about each other deeply and still not be right for each other. Sometimes the kindest thing you can do for both yourself and your partner is to set each other free. But leaving is hard. I'm not going to sugarcoat that. Even when you know it's the right decision, it's still hard. There's grief, there's guilt, there's fear of the unknown. There's the practical nightmare of separating your lives. There's the worry about what people will think. There's the second guessing that creeps in during your weakest moments. All of that is normal. All of that is part of the process. But what I want you to remember is this: short-term pain for long-term peace is always worth it. Staying in a relationship that's wrong for you just to avoid the discomfort of leaving is choosing long-term suffering over short-term discomfort. And you deserve better than that. If you do decide to leave, do it with integrity. Don't cheat your way out. Don't sabotage the relationship so that they break up with you and you don't have to be the bad guy. Don't drag it out for months because you're too afraid to have the conversation. Be honest, be direct, be compassionate, but be clear. I care about you, but I've realized that this relationship isn't right for me anymore. I've been feeling this way for a while and I've tried to work through it, but I can't ignore it any longer. I need to honor what I know in my heart, even though this is incredibly difficult. And then, after you leave, give yourself permission to grieve. Even if you're the one who ended it, even if you know it was the right choice, you're still losing something. You're still mourning the future you imagined, the person you thought they were, the version of yourself that existed in that relationship. Let yourself feel all of it. Don't rush into another relationship to avoid the pain. Don't numb yourself with distractions. Sit with the discomfort and let it transform you. Because on the other side of that grief is freedom and clarity, and the space for the universe to bring you what's actually meant for you. Here's something else the universe wants you to know. Whether you stay or whether you go, the real work is always internal. The doubt you're feeling about your relationship is ultimately pointing you back to yourself. It's asking you to get clear on what you really want. It's asking you to heal your own wounds so you stop projecting them onto your partner. It's asking you to become the kind of person who can create and sustain the kind of relationship you're longing for. Because here's the truth that nobody wants to hear. If you don't do this internal work, you'll just recreate the same patterns with the next person. You'll leave this relationship and find yourself in a new one with different problems that are actually the same problems wearing a different costume. So regardless of what you decide to do about your current relationship, commit to doing your own healing work. Go to therapy. Read books about attachment styles and relationship patterns. Journal about your fears and your desires. Meditate. Get to know yourself at a deeper level. Understand why you choose the people you choose. Understand what your triggers are and where they come from. Understand the difference between what you think you want and what you actually need. This is the work that will transform not just your relationships, but your entire life. And I want to leave you with one final thought. The universe didn't bring you to this video to make your life harder. It brought you here to give you permission. Permission to trust yourself. Permission to honor your truth. Permission to choose what's best for you, even if it disappoints someone else. Permission to stop settling. Permission to demand more from your relationships and from your life. That doubt you've been feeling, it's not a weakness, it's not a character flaw, it's actually your intuition, your inner wisdom, the universe speaking through you. And it's time to stop ignoring it and start listening to what it has to say. So now I want to hear from you. What resonated most in this video? What insight hit you the hardest? What are you going to do differently because of what you heard today? Leave a comment below and let me know. Your comment might be exactly what someone else needs to read today. And remember, the universe responds to action. So don't just watch this video and then go back to avoiding your doubt. Take one step today. Have one honest conversation. Write one journal entry. Make one decision. That's all it takes to start shifting your reality. And make sure you subscribe to this channel and turn on notifications. Because we're building a community of people who are brave enough to face their truth, who refuse to settle, who trust that the universe is always guiding them toward what's best for them. We need to hit our goal of 100 comments on this video so we can keep creating these transformative messages for people like you. So subscribe, comment, watch until the end. The algorithm favors those who engage, and I want to make sure you never miss a video that might change your life. And if you want, tell me from which corner of the world you are watching this video. Your comment matters, and I want to read it and respond to you. For more exciting stories like this, click on the video that appears on your screen right now.